Nvidia reported their 2023 fourth quarter earnings on February 21st, 2024, after what really felt like the whole entire stock market was holding its breath for arguably the most important earnings in the last 5 years. The revenue of $22.1 billion above analyst expectation of $20.4 billion for Q4 2023. In terms of EPS, aka earnings per share, analysts estimated that Nvidia was going to report $4.63, but Nvidia ended up reporting $5.16. So not only did they beat on the top line when it comes to revenue for the fourth quarter of 2023, they also beat on the bottom line in terms of EPS by reporting $5.16. So let's talk about Nvidia, what it is, why it has grown significantly over the last 20 years, and why there's the hype around it, so much attention given to it at this current moment and particular point in time. So let's get rolling, and maybe it may not be too late for you to join the party as well. So let's go. In true Nvidia fashion, I have my green on today because this company has a fascinating story and it is worth spending a few minutes talking about it and giving you guys just the company overview. It is such a special company, and in just 30 short years, it has grown its market cap to $2 trillion. And I believe it is the fastest that any company on the planet has ever grown to $2 trillion in market cap as of February 22nd, 2024. Company was founded by Jensen Huang in 1993, and he is still the current CEO. In fact, the guy actually has a tattoo of Nvidia's logo on his left shoulder, right? And that's pretty badass. Another cool thing is the fact that this company was founded in 1993 is fire, because I was born in 1993 as well. So, in some ways we can say 1993 is really the year of just, of greatness, of the birth of greatness. You feel me? If you've never heard of him, just do a quick Google or YouTube search. You will find so much quality information about this guy. He's a great leader, brilliant business model, especially what he's doing with Nvidia. And currently, Nvidia employs roughly around 30,000 people. Nvidia is such a massive company, and they're responsible for making some very important computer stuff. So one of the things they're famous for is creating graphic processing units, aka GPUs. These GPUs are like super fast brains inside of a computer that helps it do some really cool stuff. Like, for example, making, gaming look so realistic and nice. Another thing that these GPUs assist with is it helps with a lot of processing power and just the brain power that's required when it comes to artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, automation, right? So think about all the things that's happening now, and think about Nvidia as like the brain engine that's allowing all these other things and platforms to perform and do these complicated tasks. But Nvidia isn't just about games and fancy graphics. They also work on things like self-driving cars, and what their technology really does is it allows these cars to learn the environment and take in all this information so they can become safer without humans having to operate these vehicles all the time. In short, Nvidia is the secret power behind a lot of the cool stuff that we use every day, and it is exactly what is going to allow technology to advance and move forward and power everything else that we're going to benefit from here on out. The company's financials is just as fascinating and mind-blowing. In 2003, its revenue was $1.8 billion. Fast forward to 2023, right now, just for Q4 alone, it generated $61 billion. When you compare the $61 billion in 2023 to 2022, you will realize that in 2022, the company revenue was $30 billion, right? So they've literally doubled its revenue in just 1 year. Best way to look at it is picture your salary doubling right now. If you make 50K, imagine you made 50K in 2022, and in 2023 you made 100K, right? If you make 100K, think of it the same way. It doubles. That is extremely powerful to see any company right now in this current economic climate pull off such an insane amount of revenue and growth. So there's virtually unlimited demand for the products, the services, and the technology that Nvidia brings to the marketplace. But how has this affected the company's stock price? And if we look at it from 2003, Nvidia's stock price was $2 per share. Fast forward to today, it is $800 per share. I hope you guys really understand what that means. That is an increase in growth over that last 20 years of 40,700 or 40,800%. That is unheard of. In one of my most recent videos that I recorded that is titled How I Made $50,000 in the Stock Market for the year 2023, I fully break down the individual stocks that I have within that portfolio that really fueled that growth in that stock portfolio. And I spoke about Nvidia and the details. I did a full deep dive on Nvidia, and I spoke about how much Nvidia contributed to that $50,000 growth in 2023 for the portfolio. So if you want to look at what I have in my portfolio, what I own, how I go about my strategies and stock picking, and also my index funds and ETFs, make sure to check out that video because I literally broke down everything within my portfolio there. And so that can give you some ideas or some things to look into. It is not a stock market advice. I'm not telling you to go buy whatever I have in my portfolio, but sometimes you might need a little bit of information, right, to understand what somebody has and how it can potentially help you out within your financial journey and your investment journey. In 2023, the stock price increased by over 200%, and so far in 2024, it has already gone up 50% and is on track to actually eclipse how it performed in 2023. This is wild, right? Because it grew 200+% in 2023, and as of right now, in Q1 of 2024, it has grown an additional 50%. So picture what just the exponential growth that this stock is having and the hype and the energy behind it. You're going to understand more about it as we continue. I've shared with you the company's overview, how it started, some of the things that they do, how the financials are working out, and how that has impacted the stock price. But let's talk about exactly where did all the revenue come from. Nvidia's data centers is the biggest money maker for the company. It generated $47.5 billion in 2023 for the company. And when you compare that to what the data centers generated in 2022, you will realize this is an increase of 217%. That is massive demand, massive growth for the data centers. Coming in second is the gaming segment, which is responsible for products and services that we provide that are related to gaming. Some of them are just services, some of them are specific products. For example, the GPUs that I mentioned earlier, right? These are things that help improve the quality of video games and just video in general. And so this gaming segment generated $10.4 billion of revenue for Nvidia. And when you compare that year over year, you compare that to, from 2023, and you compare these 2023 numbers to 2022, you will realize that is roughly a growth of 15%, which is still really attractive. The third revenue stream is professional visualization, and that generated roughly $1.6 billion of revenue for the company. And when you compare that year over year to 2022, that is only an increase of 1%. Very small margin, but nonetheless, still great progress, and it's still another way of bringing in money. And lastly, automotive brought in $1.1 billion of revenue for the company, which is an increase of 21% compared to 2022. And that all totaled up makes up that $61 billion of revenue for 2023. As an investor and a big believer of the value that Nvidia brings to the marketplace, it is really cool and awesome just to see these gains and profits and growth over time. Because I originally bought Nvidia stocks at $75 a share many years ago, and every single year since then, I've been averaging up. I've been adding to it no matter how high the stock price was going. And then there were times where the stock price, of course, would take a dip, right? So sometimes you get a 10% correction, a 20% downturn. And I continued buying. And in fact, even the day right before the Q4 earnings, I actually bought more Nvidia stocks, and at the time it was around $670-ish a share. So I bought quite a few, and day after, right, they reported earnings, and the stock literally went up $100 because of this incredible performance and the demand and the quality of service that they're providing. And so it looks like my bet paid off, and I've just been enjoying this ride ever since. It's really important, and it's nice to just see the reward when you focus on investing in quality businesses. You do your research, you do your homework properly, and you're centered and focused on long-term investing while ignoring all the noise and making sure that you really know and understand the business that you're investing in. And I think for many, this is definitely a good reminder, and it's important that for many people out there, don't just go and buy an individual stock because you hear about it, everybody's talking about it. Make sure that you have your financial affairs in order. Make sure you have a healthy emergency fund and healthy savings. Make sure you're taking advantage of your 401k, Roth IRAs, and then also make sure that you don't have too much debt that is, having a negative impact on your financials, right? And so you don't want to invest from a scarcity, limited mindset and feel like you done missed out on something. So you're trying to make up for lost time and lost money. So you just put your money wherever. You want to make sure you do your homework, you remain consistent, you invest responsibly, and you focus on long-term investing. That is really the life hack in this entire game of stock market investing. And I know it's very easy to get discouraged when you see stock prices going down, a lot of news and things in the media about recessions and fear in the economy. And then on top of that, you might hear something about another stock that is going out the roof, and so you might feel like you're behind. But I promise you, the most important thing you can do is to continue investing in your financial education by watching these videos that we post here on YouTube. Do Google searches, read plenty of books, and that is going to protect you in the long run, right? This is not an emotional game. You want to invest responsibly, and you want to make sure that you know what you're investing in. So I say all that to say that no matter what's happening in the stock market, in the news, in the media, on social media, ignore like 95% of it and stick to your guns and focus on long-term investing. As we dive deeper into Nvidia's business, we're going to understand why the revenues and the stock market has increased in lockstep dramatically over the years. First is these graphics processing units, and they're not just for gaming, they're also for movies, all types of videos and effects and all these things. So this is used by everybody. You'll be surprised, and we'll talk a bit about their customer base and who some of the big companies that really take advantage of these GPUs that Nvidia offers. It is such a huge money-making machine for the company like no other. Companies that are buying these GPUs from Nvidia are benefiting greatly from an accelerated complexity technological advancement that this GPU brings, right? Because it does some of the most complex, it solves some of the most complex problems and improves visuals on the highest level. And so in terms of the entire marketplace and the technology industry, nobody has a better cutting edge product when it comes to these GPUs and data centers than Nvidia. So they are the leading, they're the flagship, right? Think about think about the Apples before Apples really became like that consumed, like everybody, took full advantage of it, right? They are the leading technological advancement when it comes to this next stage of innovation. And they provide these products to so many companies, and the companies that take the biggest advantage of these GPUs are the biggest companies that have the deepest pockets. And so there's no shortage of the type of customers and clients that this company has. And in fact, they actually can't make enough GPUs and CPUs and these chip processing units to meet all the demand that everybody needs. And part of it is because we are living in the age of artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning, generative AI, right? All these things are going to be way more implemented and embedded. Companies want to perform well. And in order to perform well and compete in this new age, as a company, you have to be sufficient, you have to be effective, efficient, productive, right? Use less resources and provide maximum output and serve maximum demand. And that is what these companies that are buying these products are using these products to do, to remain competitive. There's no other way. So Nvidia's top 4 clients right now are Amazon, Meta Platforms, Google, and Microsoft, right? And these 4 companies alone make up 40% of that revenue stream. Think about that, 40%. And that's just from the 4, right? And so there are many other companies that make up the remaining 60% for this company. One thing I can confidently say is that, again, Nvidia's revenue stream, it is not going down anytime soon. That is why everybody's so excited about the stock, and investors are really attracted to the company because they are going to be making revenue and it's going to grow exponentially for a long time to come. 2 is that there's a huge gaming industry boom that's going on, and Nvidia is at the forefront, right? These GPUs and products and services they provide, everybody's using it to play, Call of Duty, play more immersive games, right? We have all these avatars and things that's coming in play. We have, you have Vision Pro, you have all these other virtual reality situations that are going to depend on incredible graphics and processing power. Nvidia is benefiting from all of that, right? Gaming has before used to be something that only like children will play, right? People between like say the age of say 7 to maybe 16, 18, right? Now you have fathers, mothers, sisters, friends, people that are playing games all over the world, and they can connect via technology. And so the gaming industry is actually going to make way more money, going to continue growing over time. Not just with, computer gaming, not just with, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, but now we have these virtual headsets that allow us to also build relationship and socialize without actually being in being in the same space physically. Don't forget, we have mobile devices that many people play games on, right? You go to App Store, you'll be surprised how many games is on the App Store. Developers are also benefiting from all of this. Why? Because they also can leverage the power of this technology, these GPUs and CPUs, to increase and develop way better games that people can enjoy. And this is pretty dope because if you look at the evolution of gaming in general, from the graphics, dude, it used to be like stick figures when we used to have, Nintendo way back when Sega and all of those, right? You could barely see the characters and figures. Now, the characters in these games look more real than real humans that you you and I see on the road, right? And so one of the most anticipated, excited games that's gonna be coming out, I don't remember exactly when it's coming out, but GTA, right? They got the craziest game coming out. I can't wait for the next one. I'm super excited to play it. I think it's gonna be a world of fun, and hopefully I get to interact with some of you guys when that game come out and we get to play together. Third is that the company has actually expanded into new markets. They are not just providing, technology companies, service and products, and gaming companies alone. In automation, I mentioned selfless driving cars, right? So it helps the cars learn the environment. Not only that, these products and services that Nvidia provide is also being leveraged in the healthcare industry. Let's not forget that. Same with the financial industry when it comes to a lot of aggregating, computing power, analyzing a lot of data, a lot of information. That is across the board. Everybody's going to utilize that and also benefit from it. And as they expand their revenue streams, this is going to be huge and profitable because guess what? We are all familiar with ChatGPT, and in order for these large language models to actually grow, develop, become better, which we've seen with Google Gemini, we've seen with ChatGPT 1, 2, 3, 4, who knows where we're going with. Microsoft have their Copilot, which is going to be crazy when it comes to enterprises, right? Because it's all integrated into Microsoft ecosystem. All of these huge technological innovations and integrations are going to make these companies perform, like all the customers that Nvidia have, perform better. And so again, for large language models, there's a lot of processing power that's required and very complex and vast amounts of data that these systems are able to process and analyze and help these computers, right? This is the brain of the computer. It helps the computer spit out and learn and develop. This is huge because we all use ChatGPT. I know you've been using it. I've certainly been using it in many of the things that I do. This added layer is going to generate even more profit for Nvidia. And so that is why I stated that when it comes to their revenue streams, that is not going down anytime soon. Everybody literally depends on these companies, and Nvidia, when it comes to semiconductors, Nvidia is really the number one standalone, top of the mountain company, and it's probably right now probably the most important company in the entire stock market, because the day of the earnings that came after the market closed, throughout that entire day, the stock market was actually down by a significant margin, a good amount, okay? And so once they reported earnings, guess what? It's not only Nvidia stock that went up significantly, the entire stock market also went up. All the individual companies, especially tech-related companies, everything basically went up. And a lot of our ETFs and index funds, right, such as VOO, VUG, QQQ, all of these index funds and ETFs also went up, give and take at least 3 to 5%. A lot of individual companies went up 3 to 6, 7%, depending on the specific company. But Nvidia alone literally lifted the entire stock market, which is wild. Fourth reason why the revenue grows significantly and its stock price grows in lockstep with it, which investors are super excited about, is the company's priority and focus on innovation, aka research and development, right? That's R&D. They pump a lot of their capital that they make into research and development. So you would think maybe because they're ahead of the game by a significant margin compared to some of its competition that they will slow down. No, these guys are literally pumping in and pushing the envelope every single time, and they bring out better and better and better products and services to the public. And so I'm grateful that they're doing this, because I don't have the brains or the capacity to actually create such a high value product for the marketplace and for all the businesses and for us to enjoy personally. So I'm glad somebody's out there doing it. And number 5 is Nvidia's strategic partnerships and acquisitions. So they've done a really good job of integrating into a lot of the most important companies on the planet and the important industries on the planet. And so they've created great relationships, great acquisitions, great partnerships, and they receive so many orders that they actually can't fulfill all the orders, because again, they do have the best product on the planet. But these relationships are important because no company can scale just by themselves, right? So there are times where you need to, aside from just research and development, you might need to acquire certain assets that is going to help you continue growing and scaling up. which provides the company with great diversification when it comes to revenue streams and the potential to generate high level profits. You see, so diversification is not just for your personal finance and your investment portfolio alone. Okay, it's not just about diversifying your risk. Businesses have to do the same exact thing, because if they only, for example, if Nvidia only depended on GPUs to make money, that's an issue, right? So diversification is very important. So I always say this, and if you watch some of my videos, you will notice this. One of my favorite sayings is, if you learn to run your personal finance like a business and like a bank, you virtually never go broke. Why? Because the same thing that all these businesses are doing, these are some of the things we need to emulate within our personal finance, right? So we can diversify our risk. We can continue research and development, meaning financial literacy, constant education, right? Always learning, always doing the research. And then we got to manage our resources well and have multiple streams of income. That's what investing does. Yeah. All right, let's also take a quick dive and look at some of the financials fundamentally about the company as to why Wall Street is so bullish and the entire world is excited and is getting so much hype and attention at this present moment. We've already covered Nvidia's revenue over time, but there are a few other important metrics that we want to know and understand. And the first one we're going to start off with is gross margin. Gross margin is the profits that a company makes from selling its goods, products, and services, subtracted by what it actually costs the company to make and sell those goods to make the money that they made, right? Let's do a quick example. Let's say you're selling homemade cookies. If you subtract the cost of ingredients and packaging from the money that you made from selling, whatever's remaining is your gross margin, aka your gross profit. When it comes to Nvidia, currently their gross profit margin is around 76%, which is insanely impressive. But what is more impressive is their net income. In simple terms, net income or net revenue is the total amount of money that a company made subtracted by its operating expenses, right? Is SG&A, selling, general, and administration. That really means the employee, the workforce, and you subtract it also by the R&D, research and development, taxes, all these other things. The money that's remaining after all those deductions or subtractions are taken out of the total money the company made, aka revenue, whatever's remaining is the net income or net revenue. In our personal life, the net profit would be, say, the actual money that we receive in our bank account on payday, right? Because remember, you have your gross paycheck, which for a company would be your gross margin, and then all the deductions come out, right? So for a company, it would be, paying the employees, research and development, taxes, X, Y, and Z, and then they have the net income, right? So for you, it's the same thing. You have your gross pay, and then all the taxes, federal, state, insurance, health insurance, 401k deductions, whatever and then whatever money actually hits your bank account is your actual net income. Same thing for the business. Now let's get back to Nvidia. Nvidia's net profit or net income was $30 billion. That's insane, right? Because they made $61 billion and they kept $30 billion. That's essentially 50% of their revenue that they're keeping. And so at this particular moment, Nvidia is perhaps the most profitable company in the stock market. And that is part of the reason why you see its stock price growing exponentially. And you might be like, how is this even possible? It's because the company knows how to retain a lot of the money that it generates through its revenue. From a balance sheet perspective, they are just as powerful and impressive. Whenever you hear balance sheet, think about net worth, right? So think about the company's net worth. That's assets minus liabilities equals equity. I'm not gonna dive way too deep into the financial jargon so you won't be confused, but one of the most important things to take away here is the company has a current asset of $23 billion. This is impressive because their current liabilities, whenever you hear current asset or current liabilities, think about short term, meaning a year or less, right? So they have $23 billion of current assets. Their current liability is $6.5 billion, right? So if for any reason something happens and they have to service their short-term debt obligations, which is $6.5 billion, they can easily pay that off because they have $23 billion, right? So they can pay off their short-term liabilities 4 times over. That is a huge amount of cash and a smart way of managing the company's resources, because virtually in the short term, there's almost no fundamental danger or risk to the entire business. And it's wild because the company has a long-term debt of $12.5 billion, right? So think about it. If the company ever needed to pay off its long-term debt, they can easily just pay off the long-term debt with its current liabilities. So they can pay off their current liabilities and long-term debt and still have $4 billion left over just from a current assets perspective. That is unheard of. Financially, it is as strong and as safe as you're going to get from any stock in this current economic climate where nobody really knows what's going to happen in the short term or the midterm, right? There can be recessions, anything could possibly happen, interest rates, inflation. There's a whole lot of things happening, a crazy bag of concoction and mixture of ingredients happening. But no other company, is insane to think that Nvidia is still in some ways affordable or cheap because the stock price is extremely high. But when you look at it fundamentally from its financials, even just a little bit here that we're chatting about, it is super strong, and that is why the stock price will continue going up, and that's why investors are excited about this because it's as bullish, as aggressive as you can get with very little downside. The company is so financially sound and barely leverages debt, and so it doesn't have a lot of debt obligations that they have to worry about. So think about it, right? If you don't owe a lot of money to other people, lenders and creditors, when you make money, guess what? You get to retain all that money, meaning you get to retain all that value. And so Nvidia is making $61 billion in revenue, and they're keeping $30 billion in revenue. And guess what? $30 billion of that revenue, and they also barely owe anybody any money. So think about the equity that's being built in the company. So they're not utilizing debt like most technology companies or most companies in general out there because they don't need it, they don't depend on it, and that gives them a huge amount of flexibility and strength. So what is the future prediction and outlook for Nvidia stock in 2024? Well, according to Yahoo Finance, analysts are expecting the stock to grow 84% for the year. And that will put the stock price at $1,400 per share, which is really the high end of it, right? However, like any stock, there's also downsides or anything can happen, right? And so for the downside, the analysts are predicting that on the lower end, Nvidia stock price can get as low as around $460 a share. So at this particular moment, most analysts on Wall Street and professionals have the stock at a buy, strong buy, hold rating, right? And so damn near nobody's saying sell the stock because the company's financials and the demand for their work and how well they manage their resources shows that there's a huge upside and a lot of growth that is ahead potentially, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight, but they have a lot of demand and tons of growth to go. And I'm going to give you my personal prediction on the stock. This is something I don't do often, and don't take this like gold and take it to the bank to go cash it out, okay? But this is just my personal perspective based on the research I've done on the company and how I've analyzed the company. For the year 2024, I definitely see this stock hitting $1,000 a share. Okay, that is very realistic, very possible. So for some of us for some people that have not been in the stock, there's a potential chance that you can still benefit and over time, it should continue going up quite a bit. But for this year, 2024, I expect the stock price to get to $1,000 a share. Now, in terms of 2025, what I'm thinking in prediction wise is either the company is going to do a stock split, which would be really nice. So I'm hoping they do a stock split. And if they end up doing a stock split, in a few months after the stock split takes place, they're going to announce a share buyback, right? So they split the stocks, bunch of stocks. Keep in mind the value is the same, but they just split it into multiple pieces. And then months after that, they're going to announce a share buyback. And that means they're going to buy more of those stocks that just split it, everything. They're going to buy a good amount of it back. And that allows the company to have more control, retain more value, right? Because if there's less outstanding shares for the public, you and I and everybody else to buy, and the company keeps doing well, each share that's outstanding becomes more valuable, right? We're talking about supply and demand, right? Unlimited demand, not enough supply drives prices up. Another bold prediction that I'm making is that between 2024 and 2025, I'm hopeful that Nvidia will announce a dividend yield increase, and that should pump up the stock very well, and it should help it grow significantly because investors become more attractive, right? Imagine a growth stock like Nvidia at the forefront of innovation increasing the dividend payouts. That is very attractive to investors. So these are my own personal predictions. And I hope they do come true, and I hope they do happen, because I think it's just going to provide us more value, and many of us will feel more comfortable buying Nvidia shares, assuming they've done the homework. Personally, if the stock does go down to that potential $460 bottom, or even 500, 600, I will still be adding more to my positions over time. Again, this is not a stock advice for you to go and just buy it and do whatever, because I don't know your personal circumstances. And so, I'm not telling you to just go buy. I'm simply educating everyone and helping others learn more about how these things work and how Nvidia is just kicking ass. So the main goal is to give you some background on Nvidia, how it generates its money, what it does, how the company's financials are set up, and give you some more additional context about the company and the reason why you hear about it everywhere now. Is virtually the only thing that's being talked about aside from Taylor Swift. Again, if you decide to buy the stock, make sure you have done your research and your homework before you put your money into it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and you can let me know by giving me a thumbs up on the video. Feel free to leave a comment on any individual stock you would like to see me cover. I will be making more videos on individual stocks specifically, along with the research process, so you can all get a behind the scenes look at how I analyze and dissect stocks when I'm looking to pick individual stocks. I'm Bafi, and as always, happy investing. I will see you in the next video. Stay tycoon. Cheers.